In our previous slide casts, we looked at how do we get into a contract, how do we establish a contract. In this one, we're going to look at the discharge of a contract. How does the contractual relationship get ended? How do we finish it? So the discharge of a contract is the contractual obligations cease to bind the parties. The contractor is no longer required to build the works, and the principal has no more requirement to pay the contractor. And there's several ways that can happen. The first one is by performance. This is where they do what they're supposed to do. The contractor is required to build a road, and he builds the road, and the principal pays him for it. So that's how most contracts finish. The contractor just completes the contract works as required. Both parties have fulfilled all of their contractual obligations. The contractor's built what he's supposed to build, the principal has paid him for it, and that's it. The contract's finished. Another way that it can finish, and that 90% of contracts finish like by performance, but things can go wrong in the contract, and there are other mechanisms that allow them to be finished other than by performance. The first one is by agreement. Both parties agree to discharge the contract. It might be that the contract is for a road, and you're building away, and all of a sudden something happens where an earthquake happens and part of the road falls away, and you agree we can't build the road anymore, and so you both say, well, let's just can the contract. Okay, and both of you agree on how much the contractor is going to get paid. The contractor agrees what he needs to do to sort of tidy it all up, and that's it. So the contractor hasn't finished the works, but you've both agreed to finish it. Another one could be where the contractor just isn't performing, and the principal just say, look, it's not working out. We don't want to take you to court. We don't want to get into a battle. Let's just agree that you finish up where you are. We're going to hire someone else to do it. And the contractor might say yep, or he might say no, we're going to finish it, we've got a contract. But if they both agree, then yes, the contract can be discharged. Another way is by breach. One of the parties fails to perform their obligations. We'll talk about it in a minute. And another one is by frustration. The contract works cannot be completed. So discharge by agreement, both parties agree to do it. The different ways it can be is by waiver, so both parties abandon the contract. By a substituted contract, so that example I gave you before about the earthquake damaging, causing you damage or something to the road, they might make a new contract that sort of adds the extra work required to build the road. So it could be a substituted contract. You get rid of the old one and you just put a new one in place. Or it might be in the contract that it has conditions for its own discharge. It might say the contractor shall excavate piles down to 20 meters. If it turns out that he can't do it, then the contract's going to be waived. So it might be that the contractor can't get down to 20 meters, there's just hard rock or whatever it is, or they can't do it in that particular way, so they have to abandon the project. So there'll be something in the contract that would allow for the contract to be finished if a certain thing happens. Another one is discharge by frustration. Can be a change in law. So it might be that what you were doing was legal before, but then the law changes and now it's illegal. For example, if you're building a road and maybe there's a old building there, and when you set up the contract there was nothing about the old building that made it special, but maybe Historic Places got onto it in the interim and said, oh no, that's a historic place, and it gets established as a historic place. It's now illegal to demolish the building, therefore the law or the legal position has changed and you can't carry out the contracts. That's by frustration. Fire, war or earthquake. Here's a classic one in Christchurch, earthquake. So the first earthquake came along before Christmas and cracked this building. So it was standing up, had a few cracks in it. So a contract was let to fix those cracks. So the contractor had come along and he had set up the scaffolding, so you can see all the scaffolding here. and he was repairing the cracks when the second earthquake came along and totally demolished the building into its state now. And you can see the scaffolding there, and I hope everyone got off okay. But now the building is totally wasted. There's nothing you can do about it except demolish it. So that original contract to fix the cracks is no longer relevant. It can't be done because the building is almost falling down now because of the second earthquake. Another one is prohibition of work on site. It may be that OSH come along and say, no, this is too dangerous, or something like that. Discharge by breach. Either party fails to comply with their obligations. So the contractor may not be building the building as required by the contract document, or it may be that the principal is not paying the contractor. So remember, the obligation, the main obligation of the contract is to build it as per the contract document, and if he's not doing that, then he's in breach of contract. The main obligation of the client, of the principal, is to pay for it. If he's not paying for it in proper timing, then he is in breach. And if the breaches of contract get too bad, then the whole contract could be discharged. The remedies could be, if there is a breach of contract, that doesn't always lead to the contract being discharged. It may be that damages are paid. So if the contract is not doing the job properly, the principal can charge him to get it fixed by someone else. So that would be he's being reimbursed the damages. Specific performance, it could be that you say to the contractor, it's not being done properly, you need to do it again, and you need to do it properly. You're in breach of contract at present, but if you fix the problem, great. Okay. And the last one is cancellation of contract. In other words, the contract is discharged by breach. So those are the three ways that a contract can be finished other than by performance.